Simpson kills those two people so hard, they stop making the Ford Bronco.
Hi, all 3 people here, 6 people here. How we doing? Rose is here. That's good. Who are the other 4 people that are watching besides me and Rose? How are you, you doing? Wow. Yeah, that was cutting it pretty darn close. I was so busy all day today. I didn't have any time whatsoever to even advertise this thing, put this thing out, notify it, set it up on YouTube. I just finished doing everything right now. So I'm assuming that it's going to take a while for people to show up here. Oh, we got some people. Some people are trickling in now. That's pretty good. I can barely hear myself. I have my headphones turned down from watching the Aaron Dean trial with the prosecutor screaming at everyone during his closing arguments. All right, but we're here, sorta. All 13 of us. This is great. Well, we've got 27 people and 12 likes. Half of you aren't doing your job. Oh God, that was funny. Yeah, execution. You just got the notification because I just put the notification up. Like I was saying, this was such an absolutely crazy day today. Just nonstop from the time I woke up until about 3 minutes ago. And I just had to throw everything up at the last second, set everything up on YouTube, put everything through StreamYard, put the note out on Twitter. I'm going live now and hit that live button. So that was it's going to take a while for people to trickle in here. So we'll just kind of chill and take easy. But hey, we've got 40 people so far and I really need to sneeze, but I can't. I hate that feeling. I didn't even have time to make the stash look good today. It's just rough. Ah, my face hurts from laughing. Ah. All right. Well, as long as we're here, we may as well just kind of chill and read whatever comments you've got. Rose, hey there, Vice Squad. Whoa, where is everyone? Alan? Hello? Hello, Alan? Where is everyone? Oh, Rubber Kidney made it. Kitty made it. Chaos Coordinator. Hey, all. There's no all to say hey to, Chaos Coordinator. Oh, thank God. Hey there, says Rose. It rundown garage feels special. Okay, well, you should feel special. Everybody's special. Wilhelm Goldbart, where are the big bitches at? Yeah, it's gonna take a while for people to trickle in here. So if you're just joining us, skip forward a few minutes from the replay squad to figure out where the hell we're gonna start, because yeah, I got everything up at the very last minute. Oh, hey, Jeff in chat says Rick Wante, whatever you want. All right. Yep. Nothing boomery about this. This is just the life of the extremely busy international lawyer. Unless you saw my comment on Nick's chat that I was leaving to go play Elden Ring for an hour, which actually turned into be like an hour and 59 minutes. I forgot totally about setting everything up. I thought I'd already had it set up, but I got sucked into the world of Elden Ring. So yeah, that's my big excuse, was I was Elden Ringy. We've got our first little super sticker here, the little thingamajigger from what is that? It's a camo hippo from XCOMer. Thank you so much there, buddy. That's appreciated. Thank you for the sticker. All right, we'll just kind of catch everybody up if they want to go back and find out what we're doing, then they can. All right, yeah, seriously, I was playing Elden Ring and time, like, it was all right. I just got to go to the next bonfire. Just got to go to the next bonfire. Oh, just got to kill this last monster. Just got to go to this one last place, and then I was like, oh my God, it's time to start, and then I ran over here and there. After we finish today, I'll probably go hang out with Andrew Branca and do the what the hell is it? The judgment watch, the verdict watch for the Aaron Dean trial. Tomorrow you're not gonna want to miss it. We've got a lot of things scheduled. There's a U.S. morning show and a U.S. evening show that I'm going to be doing tomorrow. The one that starts at this time tomorrow is just probably going to be a chill, sort of semi unexplained thing. At some point, some people might be joining me. Hannah Franz was supposed to join me, but I totally got my head confused. I was dealing with 4 different time zones when I was telling her the time, and I don't know if she's going to be awake by the time we start. But hopefully she'll join when she wakes up. We'll just kind of talk about some chill things, maybe some silly news, maybe some serious stuff. But the Friday night stream, the one that's going to start about 9 p.m. Eastern time, is going to be lit. That is going to be fun. It's going to be about alphabet people behaving badly, like the far right side of the alphabet scale, like the last half of the T's, the Q's, the pluses. Been doing some odd things lately. Been in the news a lot. So we're going to talk about that. It's going to be a token. It's going to be a token cast. What do I mean by a token cast? It'll be me, your token white guy. I guess. Well, not really token white guy. I'll be the. What am I going to be? I'll be the token American. No, shit. Maybe I'm just the perfect one. I don't know, but we're gonna have the token lesbian, which will be Flux. Our very own Flux will be our token lesbian for the night for the alphabet discussion. We'll have a token Canadian, which is Drex's producer Tim, and we'll have the token black guy, which will be Drex himself. And we'll all talk about these people behaving badly. So I'll be the token boomer. Okay, even though I'm the oldest one in the group. I don't know. I think Flux might take the boomer category. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, so that's what's going to be. It's going to be me, Drex, Flux, and producer Tim, and hopefully probably also Hannah Franz. Again, I kind of missed her time by about an hour telling her what it was. So I'm still waiting to hear back from her on how badly I screwed up my day and her day. But we'll confirm the times a little bit later. So that's just going to be fun. Friday night, 9 p.m. Eastern time is when it's going to start, and it'll be a hoot. It'll be fun. So you don't want to miss that. Then next Monday will be Maritime Monday, and we'll do this thing all over again. Well, we're almost up to 100 people. I remember when we used to have to wait this long to get to 100 people. Now we can get to 100 people pretty quickly if I don't do anything. So, hey, that's pretty good. How are we all doing today? Canada's fake. Yeah, they are. I'm the token Korean. I guess. Nah, you're not gay, Flux. You're the token L. Yeah. I'm supposed to be getting upgraded internet today, so I might not be around all day today, but as soon as it's done, I'll be back. Well, great. Come on back. Flux, Flux, you got knocked up? What? What did I miss? Saw Drex doxed a video of your favorite bar on Twitter. Yeah, no. Nope. American Dreamer says, hello, Jeff. Already got 105 people and 62 likes. Great. Oh, Hannah is good people. She's smart. She's funny. Yeah, you gotta have the open mind. She's great. Yeah, preload those streams. So I didn't have time earlier, and then when I had time, I decided to relax, and then I forgot about it. So there we go. You'd be the token Korean of Hollywood. No, if it was a Netflix version of Korea, then I would be. Well, I probably still wouldn't even be allowed in there because I'm white. Anyway, you're catching up on 1.5. Just skip ahead to right now. There's literally nothing's happened. Just waiting for people to show up. But people are here. See, John is lost. Oh, don't be lost. We're just right here. Follow the light. All right. For those of you that just got here, let's do this really quickly. Then we're going to jump into OJ Simpson. Is Lilith coming back today? No, Lilith is asleep. Yes. All right, here we go. Boom. Tonight, OJ Simpson, the ghost of Fuhrman, rears his head again. Specter of Mark Fuhrman is there. As we've been watching, we've seen that there was Kathleen Bell who witnessed him make some horrifically racist comments and some sort of sus what he likes to do about black suspects or offenders. There's the script writing woman Her name just suddenly skipped my head. And there's another woman. Well, those are the people that we're going to be testifying today. I don't know how many of them we're going to get through, but it's Kathleen Bell, this other woman, the scriptwriter, and then Mark Fuhrman takes the stand again for the second and final time in our little adventure. So let's go through that. I don't think we're going to get to Mark Fuhrman tonight, but if not, it'll definitely be next week. And then 2 weeks from tonight, we'll get off of F. Lee Bailey and Mark Fuhrman and move on to Barry Scheck and Dennis Fung, the Los Angeles criminologist. And that'll be a wild, wild ride. And tomorrow, again, the 2 streams, morning time, AM, US, it'll be the kind of an unexplained, kind of chill, just sort of looking at some weird stuff on the internet. Evening time will be the alphabet people behaving badly with Drex, Flux, hopefully Hannah, me, and producer Tim, who is Drex's producer on the MGTOWN podcast. Monday, Maritime Monday. There we go. Got through that twice. Everybody in chat, great to see you. Cool Frog, welcome to Clean and Sober. Because that's you, Cool. You are clean and sober. Oh, that was a funny joke. I like myself. Cool Frog is a great guy. Go visit Cool Frog's channel. You won't regret it. Chill. He's a chill frog, a cool chill frog. All right. Let's do this. We got some ground to cover here. Everybody in chat, I'm so happy to see you. We got the great chat. We finally got here. Everybody that's listening in the background, thank you so much. Hope you can come back a little bit later and hit that like button. That's what YouTube is looking for, that like button. So get down there, smash that like button right now. Subscribe if that's something you want to do. We've already picked up a subscriber since we started. So, hey, that's great. I deeply appreciate that. Let's stay subscribed. If you have subscribed, just make sure you're still subscribed. Super chats, go ahead and super chat. There's no minimum requirement. There's no minimum super chat required to talk to me. I gratefully accept anything you guys donate to support me, and I try to read as much of the chats as possible, especially while we're going through the OJ Simpson stuff. And we'll read them if they're relevant, not things like that. We go through those. But if you do super chat, show your support for the channel, then you get a priority read, guaranteed to read all the super chats and answer them and respond to them. So with that, super chat away, hit that like button, comment, enjoy the Vice Squad mods. Thank you for being here, especially if you were wondering whether or not we're going to be doing this. We're here. All right, let's bring this up. Now, the first part of this is missing. It's just not there. So we kind of start right sort of at the beginning, the early part of Kathleen, but this is Kathleen Bell, who heard Mark Fuhrman say the horrible racist things at the Marine recruiting station. She's testifying about what she heard. Let's get into it.
Where Mr. Fuhrman surprised you with that language to any.
Let me know if we need to turn it up. Let me know how the balance is.
Determine which of her vacations it might have been.
I tried to by the weather, but the weather is all the same in California.
It's all up to you. I don't know how the balance sounds, so just let me know if everything's
more
balanced.
Toward the summertime, or maybe Easter vacation and then summer vacation, because I seem to have been speaking to Andrea quite a bit throughout this period of time, and she really wasn't home for any long period of time except for the summer.
How long had you known Andrea Terry?
I've known her for many years. She went to my high school, and we weren't close friends until a couple of years after high school.
In Brigham Young University, when she was there
attending. Oh, I didn't know she went to BYU.
In Utah.
There you go. Homie, we got a homie. I did not know Kathleen Bell went to BYU. She went to Brigham Young University in Utah. Wonder if she's a fellow Morm. All right. Hey, I never noticed that before. That I didn't notice it the first time. I didn't notice it the 2 times I was previewing this and putting the video up. I just noticed that, hey, Utah in the house.
In Brigham Young University, when she was there attending, where is that located?
In Utah.
Is she a resident or native of Utah or of California, if you know?
I believe she was born in California.
And as I understand it, you had talked to her several times in this general time frame.
Yes.
And would you talk to her when she was at college on a regular basis, or only when she was home?
Not very often at college, only when she was home.
Can you tell us how much time transpired between the moment that you first noticed Mark Fuhrman talking to the Marines but did not intervene until you introduced yourself to him?
At least a week, probably. No more than 3 weeks.
Did you see Mark Fuhrman again
After
after
the
this
second,
first encounter?
after the first encounter, yes.
I'm trying to distinguish seeing him
Okay,
from encountering him where you interact or have a conversation.
right.
Okay.
We have an important question here from Luke Pearson. Legal Vices, are we going through the entirety of the DNA expert's testimony? Oh, hell no. We're not even going to do the DNA testimony. Why? Because it was boring AF. It was terribly slow. And it was 2 weeks of utter hell. So no, we're not even going to touch it. We're going to go straight into the cross-examination of criminologist Dennis Fung on his evidence collecting, being cross-examined by Barry Scheck. But yeah, don't worry about that. Cool Frog, thank you so much for the super chat, buddy. Love you, brother. 1 year on YouTube party starts in 13 hours. Stop by. That'll be 10 a.m. my time in 13 hours. Yeah. Okay, so that'll be 11 a.m. my time. God, I'll be at work. I'll try to pop in during lunch. All righty. Back to this.
Now, time number 3
Yes.
is the second encounter. Is that correct?
Yes.
Will you have some talk together?
I didn't really speak to him.
Okay.
We kind of exchanged glances.
Where did you see him on this third occasion?
At Hennessy's Tavern on Catalina Avenue in Redondo Beach.
Was this an establishment with which you were familiar?
Somewhat, yes.
Had you been there before?
Oh, yes.
She goes to the tavern
Had
all
you
the
any
time.
prearrangement, to your knowledge, either you or Andrea Terry, to meet Mark Fuhrman at Hennessy's that day?
Oh, no.
She's
No
not letting her
prior
bias show.
arrangement.
Oh, no.
Are you able to differentiate these meetings as between 85 and 86? You have said that it occurred in 1 year or the other. What would be your best recollection?
Probably 86.
In either the spring or summer?
Probably the summer.
Okay. But in any event, you saw him in the Marine Corps recruiting station on more than one occasion during this period.
Yes.
Now, tell me the circumstances of your meeting in Hennessy's Tavern. Who were you with?
I was with Andrea.
Now, this meeting in Hennessy's Tavern took place approximately 9 years before. So that's specifically why. Earlier on, F. Lee Bailey was asking Mark Fuhrman, have you ever used the N-word at any time in the last 10 years? Because he knows that he has recordings, he has witness testimonies going back at least 9 years saying that he's used the word and providing evidence that he used the word. So, and why are we even doing this? In case you're just stumbling upon this out of the universe somehow. This stream just fell into your recommendation. You thought you'd click on it. Mark Fuhrman was an LA detective who investigated parts of the OJ Simpson crime scene at his house and where the murder site happened at Nicole Brown Simpson's place. He found the most important pieces of evidence. He found the bloody glove behind OJ Simpson's house. He found blood on the Bronco. Weirdly, when he found both of those pieces of evidence, he wasn't where he was supposed to be. He never told anybody he was going to look for anything or to investigate anything. He just wandered off by himself without telling anybody, without taking anybody with him, and he found the two most important pieces of evidence. Well, it turns out that he has a history of being a racist and possibly planting evidence. There's people that came forward and said, I was talking to him and I heard him say if he ever saw a black guy and a white woman together, he would find a reason to pull them over. He would manufacture evidence. He would arrest them. And so they started cross-examining him on, is he a racist? Does he plant evidence? And he's been saying no. He said, I've never, ever, ever used that word in the last 10 years. And now they're bringing on these witnesses to further impeach Mark Fuhrman's testimony. Let's see how that goes.
And what was the purpose or occasion for you being with her? Anything special?
No, we just stopped.
Okay.
No
And why did
special
you go to
thing.
Hennessy's that day?
Just to It's kind of like a local pub and almost like a Cheers or something like that. And we just wanted to visit with people.
Can you tell us the time of day?
I cannot.
When you arrived at Hennessy's, what did you do?
We just sat down and we just started talking. And usually there are a lot of people that we grew up with that visit there.
Now, why is she going to a tavern with someone from BYU? She shouldn't have been there. But who knows? Maybe she wasn't a Mormon. Maybe she was lapsed. Oh, someone said say bone steel. Someone wants me to say bone steel. Let's do it.
Bone steel.
There we go. You got a freebie.
And so we say hello to those people. And that's it. I remember where we were sitting and all of that.
Are you familiar with the floor layout at Hennessy's Tavern?
Yes.
And can you give the court and jury some brief description of what it looks like as you walk in the door?
You
Am I
walk
sick?
in Hennessy's and there
No.
are there's some
My voice sounds
tables
funny.
on the left-hand side and the bar is on the
Okay.
left. And then on the right, there are tables as well. And then kind of just one bar going through the middle. And
One
Andrea
bar.
and I were sitting
Whoa,
facing the
hello.
door.
That was weird. All
Are you
right.
in a booth or at a table?
It's considered a booth. Yeah.
How many booths are in the bar?
Oh, I don't know. Probably a good guess would be about 10.
Okay. And what did you do after you sat down? Did you
We
order something?
just were talking. Yes, I probably ordered cranberry juice with lime, and Andrea probably, I don't even know. We're not real drinkers, but
We're not really drinkers,
Did either
but
of you have
Right,
any
yeah.
alcoholic beverages that day?
pardon me?
Did either of you order or consume any alcohol when you were in the bar?
I did not. I don't think Andrea did either.
because she was a good student at
And
BYU
after you
and she
had
wouldn't
been
do
there
anything
for
to
some
violate
period
the
of time,
honor
did you
code.
notice someone you had seen before?
Yes,
Who was that?
Mark Furman.
Was he with anyone?
Yes, he was.
Can you describe the person that he was with?
Slightly. It was a woman and with sandy blonde hair.
And can you give any further description as to her height and weight and so forth?
No, I really can't. Probably about 5'7".
How was Mark Furman dressed on that occasion?
I don't remember.
How had he been dressed when you talked to him in the Marine recruiting station, if you recall?
I think at one time he was wearing sweats, and that's all I
Oh
can
yeah.
remember.
Did you
Mark
ever see him
Furman
wearing a
the
police
sweats
uniform?
to the bar.
No,
How long had you been in Hennessy's when he sat down?
I don't recall.
And when he sat down, what, if anything, did you do or say?
He and this woman sat down facing us, and so I saw him immediately, and it was very uncomfortable. So I told Andrea that is that man that I told her about, that I at first wanted to set her up with, and then I found out what he believed, and then I asked her if we could leave.
Did he show any signs of recognition while looking in your direction?
I don't know if he did at first, but as I left, he did.
Okay. And in what way did he indicate that he might have seen you before?
He just gave me kind of a nasty look.
Nasty.
Now, what happened after you said to Andrea that you felt uncomfortable and would like to leave the establishment?
She said, okay, and I
Hey,
thought
Aunt Sybil
that she
was,
was going
brother.
with me. And we started walking toward the door. Mark Furman and this woman were sitting, as you walk into Hennessy's and you take your first right, he was sitting at a table to the right, and he was sitting facing us. So Andrea and I started walking toward the door, and when we were walking toward the door, we were walking toward Mark Furman and this woman, and she started kind of veering off toward his table, and I was kind of trying to catch her and telling her, don't, what are you doing? And she kind of had a grin on her face, like she was going to go get his goat or something like that.
And did you stay within earshot of the two?
No, I did not.
What did you do?
I went to the door. I'm not sure if I waited in my car or waited outside, but I know I left.
Can you recall hearing any conversation from either Andrea Terry, Mark Furman, or the lady that was with him that day?
I did not hear anything.
Can you tell us whether or not you saw her sit down as you walked out the door?
I thought she was standing facing them, but I think she was just standing facing them.
Now, again, she's not remembering this exactly clearly because this was 9 years before she's giving the testimony here.
And how long was it before she rejoined you, wherever you were?
I don't think it was any more than 10 minutes, probably 5 to 10 minutes.
Okay. And you stood either outside the bar or went and got in your automobile?
Right.
Is that correct? What kind of automobile were you driving at that time? Okay. Did you at any time have conversation with Mark Fuhrman concerning astrology?
As embarrassing as it is, yes. When I met him,
Did you have a conversation with him?
briefly, yes.
When was this?
The second time I met him, I found out he was Aquarius.
All right. When
Lame.
astrology is relevant, what is important to know about a person before looking at their astrological signs?
I don't know. There's this book that I was given by someone to read, and it was talking about how people relate to each other. So I briefly read it, and I asked when his birthday was, and I remember thinking in my head that he was Aquarius.
What was his sign?
Aquarius?
Aquarius? What birth dates does that cover? What range?
Oh boy, let's see.
No, it's a joke. She accidentally
I
banned
gotta
someone
think
on my
about
stream.
this.
Let me put it a
It's
different way.
January.
Is February 5th within the range of Aquarius?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes.
Did you have any talk with Mr. Fuhrman about the significance of his astrological sign that you can remember?
Very briefly. I just,
Did that occur before the remarks were made in the Marine recruiting station?
about the black man with the white
About his
woman.
birthday?
Here we go.
I'm sorry, I
I'm
didn't
trying to
understand the
place the
question.
time that you learned
Right.
his birth date.
Okay.
When did that happen?
It happened when I started talking about my girlfriend, Andrea.
This
Because
was
it's
for the
irrelevant.
purpose to see if they were compatible.
Yes.
Next question.
After Andrea came out, without telling us what she said, did you have any conversation with her about what had transpired while you stepped out of Hennessy's and she was still inside at Furman's table?
Yes. I just asked actually, I didn't really even ask what was said. She just said, oh God. Oh, I'm sorry.
Don't tell us what
All
she
right.
said. My only question is, did she tell you something
Yes,
about
she
the
did.
conversation? And what did you two do after that?
I don't recall. We probably just went home.
Did you ever see Mark Fuhrman again?
I saw him driving in his car once, and I saw him on television.
Now,
Yeah,
apart
that was
from
Judge
the
Ito
television,
asking
when you
one
saw him
question.
driving in his car, do you have any recollection of what kind of vehicle he was driving?
I believe it was an International Scout, like a utility vehicle, and it was kind of a pea green and white.
All right. Do you have any personal knowledge as to whether he owned that vehicle or was simply driving it?
I don't know, but I saw it in front of the Marine Recruiting Center, and I saw him driving it later, and I saw it parked in front of Hennessy's, and that prevented Andrew and I from going in. Andrew and me.
Did you ever personally see Mark Fuhrman again?
No, I did not.
All right. Now, you have told us that your second seeing of Mark Fuhrman and your first encounter was probably within 3 weeks of your first noticing him in the station, and you didn't stop.
Probably.
Can you relate the Hennessy's bar encounter to the one in the Marine Corps recruiting station in terms of time?
You have to be a
Probably-
mod.
Again, about 3 weeks or a month.
And the occasion in which you simply saw him drive by and had no conversation with him, how much after Hennessy's bar might that have occurred?
I don't know, but again, Andrea was still in town.
What is the longest you would expect Andrea to be in town if she were on other than a summer vacation from Brigham Young?
She may have skipped a quarter, and I'm not even sure if they're on the quarter system there, but she may have skipped a quarter, and I'm not sure when that fell.
Yes, they were on the quarter
How
system
did
back
you
in
learn Mark
1995.
Fuhrman's name? Did someone tell you the name or did he tell you?
When I was introduced to him at the Marine Recruiting Center, I was introduced to him as Mark.
And who did the introduction?
I believe it was Ron Rohr.
As a result of the remarks that Mark Fuhrman said to you on your first encounter,
Mhm.
where he talked to you, did you do anything with respect to the LAPD that you can recall?
Yes,
What did you do?
what did I do? I called the LAPD. I tried anyway, and it wasn't 911, but it was. I seem to recall Culver or Olympic, and I don't know if that means a street that, or a district, or I don't.
You remember how you got the number that you called to place this complaint?
I called, I think the operator, or 411.
And asked for whom, if you can remember?
I asked for the Los Angeles Police Department in Westwood because that's where he said that he worked at that time. And I don't think there was such a thing. And she was saying, well, I can give you Olympic or Culver or something like that.
Did you get a number and eventually call it?
I did.
Do you have any recollection of whom you may have spoken with?
I believe it was a woman, and I hate to be so vague, but I really don't recall. But I truly believe it was a woman.
And can you recall whether or not Mark Fuhrman's name was used during your conversation with whatever woman you spoke to?
Well, I said that there's a police officer.
Oh, well.
Now, again, she's calling the police department to complain about racist language that she heard Mark Fuhrman use. And that's what she's testifying to here now.
I said that they have a police officer named Mark, and I told her that he had a racial problem and that I thought they should know. But I didn't have any other information about him, and I was afraid to ask the Marines his last name.
Why didn't you want to ask the Marines?
I didn't want to seem like I was trying to get information about him to get him into trouble because I was afraid of him.
Kathleen Bell was the original Karen. Let me speak to the police manager. You got a racist cop.
Did you ever follow up on that call or go see anyone?
No, I did not.
Were you asked to do anything further by the woman at the other end of the police line?
No, not at all.
When was the next time you saw, either personally or on television, Mark Fuhrman?
I did see him on television last year.
All right. Was that perhaps during the preliminary hearing?
Yes, it was.
Might it have been in July of '94?
Yes, it was.
Okay. And where were you when you noticed Mark Fuhrman on the screen?
I was at home.
And what was he doing when you first noticed him?
He was sitting as a witness.
Now, the background for this here is she had this bad experience with him 9 years previously. Then she meets him in the bar, and he says these horribly racist things as you go out of his way to frame black people, do all this stuff. And she reported that to the police. And what she was saying, her original backstory for testifying at this hearing is that she was watching, she didn't like OJ Simpson. And she didn't like the fact that his lawyers were claiming racism until she saw, she heard the voice, looked around, looked at the TV, and saw who it was that the defense was using to say that he was making racist comments. And she went, holy crap, yeah, I know that guy is really super racist because he said some really super racist shit around me. So she called the defense and says, hey, I know this guy, and you need to know that he's more racist than even you suspect. So that's how she came here.
And was he testifying?
Yes, he was testifying.
Okay. Now, my understanding is that from the time you last saw him driving the Pea Green International Scout until you saw him on television, you had no direct encounters or indirect encounters with Mark Fuhrman.
No.
Oh, well.
You indicated that you were afraid of him in a way. Can you explain why that is so?
I think that what he said was
Sustained.
Can you describe his demeanor when he spoke the words using the N-word about the black race? How did his face appear?
Oh, well.
he seemed disgusted.
Did you see any signs whatsoever of jocularity in his face, as if he were pulling your leg with these outrageous remarks?
No.
Oh, well.
All right. When you saw Mark Fuhrman on television, Did you recognize him immediately?
Immediately.
And how did you recognize?
I saw him and it all came back, every bit of it.
All right. Well, you were remembering now what about the Mark Fuhrman you had encountered back in 85 or 6?
I remember what he said.
But did you remember his facial appearance?
Oh, yes.
He was a handsome man, you said?
Yes.
And his height?
He was sitting again when I saw him, but I remember his face.
All right, excuse me, counsel and Ms. Bell. If you would you allow Mr. Bailey to complete asking you the question before you start to answer? Mr. Bailey, would you allow her to finish answering before
Yes,
you start the next
I'm
question?
sorry.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
What, if anything, did you do? After
What, if
seeing
anything?
Mr.
See, F. Lee Bailey, he's one of the old school. He's one of the original lawyers that started the whole "what if anything" thing that is still way overused 30 years later.
Fuhrman testifying in the preliminary hearing in the Simpson case?
I called the news show that I first saw him on. That was the first thing that I did. I wasn't sure what to do, and I just know that I felt
Icky.
afraid again. I felt that same feeling that I felt in that Marine Recruiting Center when I saw him on television, and I thought that someone should know, and I didn't know what to do, so I called the news company, and I told some young person on the phone that what they just showed was true. There's something about this man that is
Sustained.
Don't tell us what you said, but can you
Okay.
identify the news program and why you called that program?
It was Channel 9, and I called because I saw him
Now, Ms. Bell, when you say you saw him on the channel, do you mean on the witness stand in court or being interviewed outside of court?
on the witness stand, but I'm not certain if he was saying anything. I think that the news broadcaster was speaking over the film of him.
And what did you understand his role was, if any, in the case at that point?
Sustained.
What caused you to call the news media? Why did you think that was important? Channel 9.
Overruled.
I
Overruled.
I really didn't know what to do. And I thought that someone should know that it was something is wrong with this person. And something was said, and I was vacuuming kind of and cleaning at the time, and I didn't hear exactly what was said, but something about a racial issue. And so I thought that people should know that this person has a problem.
Without going into what was said, did you contact anyone at Channel 9?
Only this young man who answered the phone.
Did you have a conversation with him?
Yes.
Did you ever have any further contact with anyone at Channel 9?
A reporter later on,
And
But-
where did that occur?
much later on. I was walking out from my office where I work, and he kind of tracked me down in his news van.
Now, at some point, did you write a letter to Mr. Cochran?
Yes, I did.
And do you know whether or not that letter has been displayed for this jury earlier in the case?
It has been displayed.
No, I'm simply asking if you know that's true or don't.
I'm not really sure. I don't think so.
Have you seen the letter recently?
I just saw it this morning.
Okay. And why did you write Mr. Cochran a letter?
Well,
Overruled.
I thought that I didn't want someone to be tried without all the information, and I thought that there might be some reason that they need to know that Mark Fuhrman said these things to me.
Were you, without saying what was,
Hang on here. We have a relatively important question here. Why was she at the Marine Corps Recruiting Center? Her office was right next to it. Her office at the time was located right next to the Marine Recruiting Center. So she was just hanging around in there, in that area. That's why, because she worked next door. And now back to our regularly scheduled examination.
said? Were you acting on the advice of anyone or on your own initiative
No.
when you wrote the letter?
On my own initiative.
Now, this letter was written at about what date, as you can best recall?
July 18th, I believe, or July 19th.
All right. Was this after the preliminary hearing was over, to your knowledge?
I don't know. I hadn't been watching the case. I'd listened to it on the radio on my way home, but I really wasn't watching it very much.
As a result of that letter, did somebody contact you?
Yes.
Can you give us the name of the person that contacted you?
Mr. Douglas.
Carl Douglas?
Yes.
All right. And without going into what was said, did you have some conversation with him?
Yes, I did.
Did you thereafter talk with anyone else affiliated with the defense of this case?
Yes.
Okay. And can you name that person?
Okay. I spoke with a Pat McKenna, but before that, I spoke with a man. Excuse me, I don't remember his name.
Should it have been Pavlik?
Yes, Mr.
William
Pavlik.
Pavlik?
Yes.
Okay. Did you speak at length with either of
Did you
these two
spank
defense
Mr. Pavlik?
investigators?
Woo, saucy.
Not Mr. Pavlik. I spoke to quite a bit.
Okay. And did you tell him essentially what was in the contents of your letter?
Yes, I did.
Now, can you tell us who this gentleman is right here?
That is my family's attorney and my attorney.
He's
Mr.
represented your
Daigneault.
family for some years now.
Yes.
Cool. And just for the record, counsel, you want to identify? Counsel.
I'm sorry. He's identified out of the presence of the jury. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Mr. Taylor Daigneault, who practices in Redondo Beach.
Thank you, counsel.
At some point, did you contact Mr. Daigneault without going into anything that was said?
Yes.
Can you relate us in time to when that first occurred with respect to Mark Fuhrman?
Oh,
With respect to seeing him on television.
With respect to your whole involvement in letting the defense know what he had done years before, when did you seek the advice of Mr. Daigneault on this point?
Yes. Probably, gosh, let's see. I don't know when the reporters started finding me, but there is, after the Channel 9 reporter found me, that's when I contacted him, and I don't know what that time frame was. Probably a month
F. Lee
later.
Bailey died a few years
later.
ago.
All right.
Earlier
Now, at
this
any
year?
time, did you contact anyone affiliated with law enforcement with this information or attempt to contact?
After the, you mean since I saw him?
Yes.
I sent my same letter. I faxed my same letter to the district, Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office.
Did you get a response for anyone in the LA District Attorney's Office after you faxed a copy of the letter to Mr. Cochran?
No, I did not.
Have you ever talked to anyone from that office?
No, I
He
haven't.
died June
Have you
3rd
ever
of
talked
last
to
year.
myself prior to this
2021.
morning?
No, I have not.
Or any other lawyer at the defense table or affiliated with the defense to your knowledge, other than the one call from Mr. Douglas?
No,
Okay. Have you been interviewed by either side? Or that is to say, lawyers for either side?
no,
Have you ever heard from anyone connected with law enforcement since you sent that letter out?
no.
Now, did you follow the proceedings in this case at all, this trial?
Since I saw Mark Fuhrman, I did. I was a little bit more interested, so I started following it.
And do you recall a time when he testified when your name was brought into the trial?
Yes,
Do you recall things that were said about you by the prosecution at that time?
Sustain.
Okay.
Let's see what we got here. Well, we can kill two birds with one stone. Okay, we're all caught up on super chats. Slow super chat day. But to be Flair said, I'm reading a book about the Philadelphia experiment from the 1970s. I want to poke you about it on one of your MMs. I would cuck and send super chats. We're not going to do it on a Maritime Monday. We're going to do it on a special edition of The Unexplained coming up in a month or so. It'll be all about the Philadelphia experiment. So cool.
Exhibit 102 has been previously shown to the jury in enlarged form during Mr. Fuhrman's testimony.
This trial started
Miss
the
Bell, it
last
will
half of
appear on a
my
little
second year of law
television set
school and finished
down to
the
your
first
right
half of
and
my
also
third
up
year.
on that big screen, but I think you'll be
I
able to
watched
read
it
it better.
all.
Okay.
Now, I'd like to go through it with you and ask
Here's
you
the
whether or
letter.
not you recollect this as being a letter that you originated.
Here's the letter that she sent. All of this background, all of this foundation, all of this that they've been questioning her for the last 25 minutes, plus however much was cut out of the beginning, has all been boiling up to the contents of this letter. This is the first time the jury is hearing this letter. And mind you, this is what, September 5th of 1995. And I believe it was June 14th, I want to say, when he was on the stand. So basically 2 months. 2 months after Mark Fuhrman sat there on the stand and under a blistering cross-examination by F. Lee Bailey, one of the greatest criminal defense lawyers ever to walk planet Earth, said in his testimony that I have never used the N-word to describe any black person. I do not use that word. He said that he has never used that word in any context for 10 years before this. And F. Lee Bailey asked him, so if we put a witness on the witness stand and someone testifies that they heard you use those words at any time in the past 10 years, would they be lying? Would they? He said, would they be, by definition, a liar? And Mark Fuhrman looked straight at him and said, yes. Yes, they would. Well, here we go. Here's the witness that he's putting on the stand that's going to say he said the N-word. He dropped it a few times right there. So this is the woman that must categorically, unequivocally, and by definition be a liar because Mark Fuhrman said he never said this word in the last 10 years.
First, did you have any help in drafting this letter?
No, I did not.
Second. All right. Now, and how did you know that Mr. Cochran would be a good person to write to in connection with the information that you had?
I called the information operator and I tried to get Mr. Shapiro's phone number, and he just kind of laughed and said, well, you can't get that phone number.
The operator said, you can't get Shapiro's phone number?
Right.
I see. Okay. So what did you do next?
On that same news broadcast, they had mentioned an attorney named Johnny Cochran, and I didn't know even if he was in California or not. So I just thought I'd try. And I did get that phone number, and he had an answering service, and I asked for the fax number.
Okay. And did you get it?
Yes, I did.
And when you composed this letter, can you tell us mechanically how you did it? Was it handwritten, typed, or computer, or what?
No, I just went on a computer.
And did you type it yourself
Yes,
and print it out?
yes.
All right. Now, would you look at the first paragraph down to your right? You mentioned that you were writing in regards to a story you saw on the news last night, and you previously told us that you think this letter was sent out on July 18th when you got Mr. Cochran's fax number. Is that right?
I think I actually wrote the letter on July 18th or 19th, and then I ended up staying up so late that it ended up being the 20th that I actually faxed it.
Okay. Well, can you help us with what date is meant by last night in the first paragraph, first sentence of that letter?
I have this at home. I'm sorry. I believe it was the 19th that I started writing it, and that where I saw the news broadcast the 19th, and the 20th is when I actually sent it.
Do you have any recollection, Ms. Bell, as to what news program you were watching that you're referring to in that first sentence?
Channel 9 News.
Is that a station that you generally watch?
Yes, I guess. Sure.
Next sentence says, I thought it ridiculous that the Simpson defense team would even suggest that there might be racial motivation involved in the trial against Mr. Simpson. Now, without going into the text of what you had heard before, had you heard such a claim advanced by somebody?
Yes.
Oh. In the next sentence, you say, I then glanced up at the television and was quite shocked to see that Officer Furman was a man that I had the misfortune of meeting.
Now, Onawa says, you wrote it all by yourself, little girl? He wasn't asking that question to be demeaning, because they need to lay the foundation that she wrote this. She is the author of this letter. If someone else wrote it or someone else helped her, then that person would have to come and be a witness as well to testify as to what they did with this letter. They're part of the letter. They would have to authenticate this letter as also being part of their work. So that's why he's asking the question. Not to demean her and call her she's just a little girl. Did a little girl write this whole big letter all by herself? No, it's because he needs to for foundational purposes. So that's why he asked the question.
When you glanced up at the television, as you describe in that sentence, did you recognize Mr. Furman immediately?
Immediately.
Had anyone in your entire life, on a first greeting, ever treated you the way that you were treated by him in that Marine recruiting station?
Never.
Right. You say you may have received a message from your answering service last night that I called to say that Mr. Furman may be more of a racist than you can even imagine. Had you left a message on an answering service the night before that you believed to be that of Mr. Cochran?
Yes.
And did the answering message contain generally the information that's in that sentence? Did it use the word racist?
I don't know if I said anything. Actually, I do know that I said something. I don't know exactly what it was.
Okay. In other words, you're not sure that you told the answering machine what's in that letter about Mr. Furman, simply that you called to make contact. Is that right?
It was an answering service.
Service.
Right. And
And the
I
one that gave you
spoke
the
to the
fax.
woman. Right. I spoke to the woman and I,
You don't recall if you told the woman the text of your complaint.
right.
Okay. Now, you said between 1985 and 1986, I worked as a real estate agent. Do you mean by that during 85 and 86?
Yes.
And was the company out of business at the time you wrote this letter, as you have said?
Yes.
And you have told us, I believe, that your office, Century 21, was in fact located above the Marine
No, it was
Recruiting
it was
Center
above
off of
the
the Pacific
okay.
Coast Highway. That's correct?
It was
Yes.
above it, not next to it.
And you would stop on occasion to say hello to the two Marines working there you've identified as Mr. Foss and Mr.
He's paraphrasing the letter here. What the letter says is between 1985 and 1986, I worked as a real estate agent in Redondo Beach for Century 21 Bob Maher Realty, now out of business. At the time, my office was located above a Marine recruiting center off Pacific Coast Highway. On occasion, I would stop in to say hello to two Marines working there. I saw Mr. Furman there a couple of times. I remember distinctly because of his height and build.
Aurora, right?
Yes.
By the way, were they generally in uniform when you saw them?
They were always in uniform. Oh, excuse me, except for once or twice. I saw Joe Foss. We went jogging.
I saw Mr. Furman there a couple of times because I remember him distinctly because of his height and build. Now, is that the height and build you told us you noted because you were concerned with fixing up your friend Andrea Terry with someone of equal or greater stature?
Yes.
Okay. Next page, please. When you saw Mr. Furman at the recruiting station on the first two occasions, was he wearing any of the accoutrements of a policeman, like a weapon or that sort of thing that you saw?
I didn't notice anything.
Okay. You say that while speaking to the men, I learned that Mr. Furman was a police officer in Westwood, and I don't know if he was telling the truth, but he said that he had been in a special division of Marines. I'd like to stop there for a moment and see if we can sort this out.
Mm-hmm.
You saw Mr. Furman through the window, tapped on the window and walked on the first occasion.
Mm-hmm.
You noted that he was tall and a good-looking man. You then spoke with the Marines when Mr. Furman was not present about the propriety of introducing yourself,
Yes.
and subsequently you did introduce yourself
Heads up, N-words inbound.
to be greeted by his views that you've described. Is that correct?
Yes.
What I want to know is whether or not the information about his having been in a special division of the Marines came from the two Marines or one of them, or came from Furman himself.
I believe it came from one of the Marines.
In other words, they related this to you before you ever talked to them.
I
Your best
believe so.
recollection.
Right. After the first time that I met him, that I saw him, I spoke to them. And at that time, we talked about it a little bit.
Okay. Did you inquire of them as to any other information relating to Mr. Furman, his marital status, what he did, etc.?
Not his marital status. I just said that I was uncomfortable walking in while he was there, and they said that he was a former Marine. That he was a former Marine that just liked to come and shoot the breeze, so it was fine that I could walk in.
Okay. All right. At that point, you say, I don't know how the subject was raised, but Officer Furman said that when he sees an N, as he called it, driving with a white woman, he would pull them over. Now,
Oh, he's starting to pull his punches. He didn't pull his punches when he had Furman on the stand. Now he's calling them an N instead of dropping. He was dropping the hard R bombs when he was questioning Mark Furman. Now he's softening it a bit here. So
there's no mention of Marcus Allen there. Do you now remember that his name was mentioned before this
Yes, I
response?
do.
Okay.
And I also, excuse me, remember that he didn't say the N-word at first.
Hold on. Next question.
You say, I asked if he didn't have a reason, and he said that he would find one.
Yes.
Did you mean by that a reason to pull them over?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. A moment ago, you wanted to explain something to us that you had just recalled. Would you tell us what that was?
When in this letter, I wrote this in a very big hurry, and I didn't think that there would be such a need to recall exactly what had happened in detail. So there was a mistake there, and he did not say the N-word when he said, if I saw a black man with a white woman driving in a car, I would pull them over. He definitely said a black man.
Okay. And did he use that word later when he talked about burning everybody?
Yes, he did.
Okay. Did he use black or a word beginning with N?
The N-word.
Okay. Now, there's no mention.
And again, for those of you that don't know, this trial is the reason we say the N-word today. Because Furman said he never dropped it, but Bailey was dropping the hard R repeatedly when he was questioning, repeatedly on motions, repeatedly out of the presence of the jury. And then we have the tapes where Furman himself dropped it at least 41 times, and the black prosecutor, Christopher Darden, refused to say the hard R word. So he started calling it the N word. And at that point, everyone else sort of fell in line and started calling it the N word. So here we are. That's what, because of this trial today, we all say the N word, which, as was it Louis C.K. said, that just like intellectually dishonest. You don't want to say it, so you say the N word, and you make me think it in my head. So you're off the hook, but I have to think it in my head. Yeah, that's kind of what they're doing here, So this is where, this is the beginning of woke.
In this paragraph about the query, supposing they were in love.
Right.
You left that out of your letter.
Right.
All right. Have you gone over this encounter in your mind since the time you wrote this letter?
Many, many
Have you
times.
discussed it without saying what was said with a number of people?
Yes.
Do you have, as you sit there today, a clear recollection of the words uttered by Mark Furman as you have described them in your testimony?
Yes, I do.
Okay. All right. If we can pull up the next paragraph, Mr. Douglas. If you would just read that first sentence and ask you whether or not you distinctly recall him using those words.
All right. Now, what they read, to be Flair has it
correct. I'm not going to put the exact quote up on my screen just yet. But yeah, what he was just saying was, this is what she said in her letter. I don't know how the subject was raised, but Officer Fuhrman said that when he sees a binger, as he called it, driving with a white woman, he would pull them over. I asked what if he didn't have a reason? What if he didn't have a reason? And he said he would find one. I looked at the two Marines to see if they knew he was joking, but it became obvious to me that he was very serious.
Officer Furman went on to say that he would like nothing more than to see all niggers gathered together and killed. He said something about burning them or bombing them. I was too shaken to remember the exact words he used. However, I do not remember that I do remember that what he said was probably the most horrible thing I had ever heard someone say. What frightened me even more was that he was a police officer.
Ms. Bell, is all of that true? Everything that you wrote there?
I know now that he said gathered together and burned.
Okay. Next paragraph, please.
Yeah, so
All right, you
Fuhrman,
have said in your letter that you're almost sure you called the LAPD. What is your present recollection as to whether you did?
I am positive I did.
Okay. And in the last full paragraph of information, you say that now that you know that Mr. Fuhrman was the investigating officer, are you relating that to the Simpson investigation?
Yes, I am.
And that information came to you because you saw him on television?
Right.
You said, I'm certainly not a fan of Mr. Simpson, but I would hate to see anyone harmed by Officer Fuhrman's extreme hatred. Now, were you writing this letter or bringing this information forward in an effort to help OJ Simpson in any way?
No, I was not.
And did you invite the recipient, Mr. Cochran, to contact you for further information, as it says there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the letter that she sent. That's her whole reason for being on this stand, was to read that letter. Oh yeah, really? She was smoking hot in the 90s. That hair. Because people say it does. That's why.
In one more effort to try and pin down the time frame, is it true that you began to work for Mr. Marr in the fall of '85, early fall, September-ish?
Yes.
Okay. And how long did this job last?
I think it was October. I'm sorry. I think it was October.
October of '85?
Right.
And when did you last work for him?
Probably October of '86.
All right. So that if there were a spring or summer series of encounters,
Mm-hmm.
it would have to be in 1986. Is that correct?
I think it would be '86. Yes.
Didn't work there in the spring or summer of
Right.
'85 or '87,
Right.
did you?
Right.
Okay. Now, with respect to time, when you faxed the letter we have just reviewed to Mr. Cochran's office, how soon thereafter did you fax that same letter to the district attorney?
The next day.
Thank you.
So that avoided the saying, "Oh, you're trying to help them. You're sending this to the defense. You're doing it to help him. You're making the story up so that you can help OJ Simpson." But he alleviated that concern by saying, "Did you do it to help Simpson? No. Did you also send it to the prosecution? Yes. When? The next day." So she sent it to both sides.
Very much.
Mr. Darden.
Ms. Bell, did you fax the same letter to Chief Willie Williams?
No, I did not.
Do you fax the letter to Chief Willie Williams?
Cross-examination.
I take
Be
it that
careful,
you understand that this word, this epithet, is the most vile word in the English language.
Yes.
You'd agree with that, wouldn't you?
Yes.
Is it the most vile word in the English language? Christopher, I gotta say that from a cisgendered
white Anglo-Saxon Christian white guy. It's not the most horrific word. It might be to a certain class of people, a certain race of people, a certain group of people, but to say it is just the most horrific word, the most vile word in the entire English language, you might be pushing it, but she humored him and said yes. David Watkins says moist.
I take it that you understand that this word, this epithet, is the most vile word in the English language.
Yes.
You'd agree with that, wouldn't you?
Yes.
And when you heard Detective Furman use this word, you were offended.
Yes.
You were hurt by it,
Yes.
and you were frightened of him because of his use of this word.
Yes.
You were horrified, I think you testified earlier.
Excuse me, not just because of the use of the word, but because what he said
And you
along
felt,
with it.
I'm sorry, did you finish?
Sorry. Along with it.
Okay. And you felt that the fact that this encounter ought to be made known to the defense attorneys and also to the DA's office, is that right?
Yes.
When you heard Detective Furman use these words, you cried. Or did you cry?
Somewhat.
Somewhat?
See, the necrophiliac is a worse word. Okay. See, this, if anything, this is showing that she's not a hardcore, I guess what we'd call a right-wing radical, dropping N-bombs. She's a softie, you know. She's a softie. She's sympathetic. She's not a bad person. So she cried when he used this word. So, yeah, I don't know exactly where it goes, what he's trying to do with it, but you know, he's certainly not helping Mark Fuhrman up to this point.
Yes, I was teary-eyed. He could see that I was upset.
And you immediately left the recruiting office.
Yes.
Despite the horror and the
horror, what?
Trauma Detective Furman's use of this word caused, isn't it true that you still introduced Andrea Terry to Mark Fuhrman?
There it is. There it is. There's the link. It was terrible. It's the worst word. You heard this word and you cried. And it upset you so much, it traumatized you to hear the most vile word in the entire English. But you hooked your friend up with her, right? You hooked your friend up with him, right? Right? So it must not have been too terrible. There's the link.
I did not.
Is she in the building today?
I heard that she was.
You expect that she's going to be testifying later?
Sustain.
Shut up, Darden.
Detective Furman did use this word, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
Now, when you and Andrea Terry saw Detective Furman in Hennessy's bar, did you say to Andrea Terry that Detective Furman would be a good person for her to date?
No, I believe I spoke with Andrea about that after the first time I saw him at the Marine Recruiting Center. Before Hennessy's and before the second time I saw him at the Marine Recruiting Center.
And did you introduce Andrea Terry to Detective Furman?
No, I did not.
And did you sit at a table with Andrea Terry and Detective Furman and the other woman you described?
I would never do that.
I'm sorry.
No, I did not.
Okay. Now, you didn't want to come here and testify. Is that right?
No,
Okay. You did want to testify?
I did not want to testify.
You didn't want to help the defendant in this case.
No, I did not.
That's why she sent the letter
And
to you
that's
too.
because you think he...
Sustain. No. Counsel, I understand Mr. Bailey's handling this witness. And he's able to do that admirably. Sustain. Move on.
So, so what happened there was, I mean, each lawyer, they're like one witness, one lawyer. This is Bailey's witness, and one of the other lawyers objected and asked to approach. And Ito said, "Nah, no, I think Bailey can handle it." And anyway, it's overruled, and Darden moved the hell on.
I want to make certain that you have given us a full account as best you can as to what happened between you and Detective Furman. Have you?
Yes.
And everything you said this morning before this jury is true.
Yes, it is.
Now, I believe you told Mr. Bailey that you haven't. Let's strike that. Did you tell Mr. Bailey that you haven't
Substained.
used
Yeah, I meant
N-word yourself
substained.
before?
Sorry.
I've never used that to describe another person. I've used it several times, many, many times lately.
That's how you answer the fucking question. Right there. Right there. This whole thing with Mark Fuhrman could have been avoided if, when F. Lee Bailey looked at him and said, "Mr. Fuhrman, have you ever used this word at any time in the last 10 years to describe a black man?" If he would have said, all Fuhrman had to say was, "Yes, of course I have. I've used it on a few occasions. When talking to a screenplay writer, I was trying to be cool. I was trying to use like the language of the street. I used it a few times there. I may have told a few off-color jokes in my life, but I don't use it out of malice. I haven't." And that probably would have made all of this go away. So here, that Darden's trying the same thing. "Have you ever used this word?" He's like, "Well, no, not to refer to anyone, but I've said it a lot in the last few times. I just said it on the stand 2 minutes ago. You heard me, dumbass," is kind of the implication she's going there. So Darden's trying, and it's not working because the jury just heard her say that word.
In referring to Mark Fuhrman's conversation.
Okay. Well, other than your references to Mark Fuhrman's conversations, have you ever used that word yourself?
I've never used that word to describe someone, no.
Not once in your whole life?
Not once in my whole life.
Prove her wrong, idiot. See, again, here's the thing. Darden can't prove that she hasn't done that. Darden can't prove that she's used that word at any point in her life. Bailey, when he asked that question, knew Kathleen Bell was there, knew the next two witnesses were there, knew there were recordings from 10 years before, all the way up to the trial, where he was using that word. Darden, no, you can't. You're not an F. Lee Bailey. Don't try it. Now
Not
he's
one
got
time
nothing.
in the last 10 years, that is, other than in reference.
And see, then he has to plagiarize. He has to plagiarize F. Lee Bailey's questions. And it's been asked and answered. He said, "Did you ever use it in your entire life?" "No, not once." "No." "Okay. What about the last 10 years?" Asked and answered, kiddo. Come on, Darden. She said never in her life, and that includes the last 10 years. But he's got to use the same wording as F. Lee Bailey. Well, again, who cares if she said it to describe someone? He would use it to discredit her. Oh, you're trying, the defense is using her, talking about Fuhrman using the word to discredit him and to cast doubt on his credibility, and you're using the same word, so why should we believe you? But it doesn't work.
Use that word to describe someone, no.
Not once in your whole life?
Not once in my whole life.
Not one time in the last 10 years, that is, other than in reference to Detective Fuhrman's conversations.
Object unless we're not approved.
Sustain. It's irrelevant. It's a collateral issue.
So shut up, Darden. And he's confused. He's
You
flustered.
testified also that no one from the DA's office interviewed you. Is that right?
This is true.
But there were attempts by members of the DA's office to interview you. Is that right?
My attorney was arranging something, but he wanted a court reporter to be there.
Okay. At any
That's all I
event,
remember.
okay. At any event, the DA's office did attempt to interview you. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
That did more damage than good, Darden. Sorry.
Ms. Bell, what was the information we're trying to give us about the condition that your attorney imposed on an interview relating to a court reporter? What did he?
Now, again, Darden asking dumb questions is going to get his ass handed to him right here. Again, trying to make it sound like she's evading being questioned by the district attorney's office. You know, did they try? Were they unsuccessful or whatever the hell, however the hell Darden phrased it? You know, did the district attorney's office try to do this, but you didn't meet with them? Well, I wanted a court reporter there, but did you try? Did they try? And blah. Now here's Bailey's going to get her to explain what the problem was.
Ms. Bell, what was the information we're trying to give us about the condition that your attorney imposed on an interview relating to a court reporter? What did he ask, if you know?
Sustained. Rephrase the question.
Was there a request that a court reporter be present if you were interviewed by the prosecution?
Yes.
Overruled. Answer will stand.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The answer is yes, there was.
Yes, sir.
And you learned of that through Mr. Daniel?
Yes.
All right. And what was the response, as you understand it, from the district attorney's office that a court reporter be present to take down what was said?
Sustained.
Okay. Did the interview ever take place?
No, it did not.
Have you always been willing to submit to an interview provided a court reporter could be present to take down what was said?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Darden.
You did give interviews to Larry King and Dateline NBC. Is that correct?
Yes, I did.
There was no court reporter there, right?
But the proof was there.
Are you aware that we in the DA's office tape record almost every interview we do?
Overruled.
I wasn't aware of that, no.
Are you aware that the DA's office offered to provide a stenographer during any interview that you might have had with us?
I'm sorry, Your Honor, I can't get attention.
Would you keep your voice up, Mr. Darden?
Are you aware?
Overruled.
So this is recross.
Are you aware that the DA's
Recross
office
anyway.
offered to provide a stenographer to be present during any conversation that you might have had with us?
I am not aware of that, no.
Okay. You never had a conversation with Miss Lewis?
No, I did not.
Okay, but your lawyer did.
Oh, yes, he did.
Thank you very much.
All right, Ms. Bell, thank you very much.
Biased.
Excuse.
Thank you.
All right, next
Wait,
witness.
How am I biased? I'm just telling you the way it is. Darden is way out of his league. He's grasping at straws, trying everything he desperately can to impeach her, and it ain't working. She's done. All right, well, she's off the stand. That's the end of her testimony. Now we're going to get into a bit of a fight between the prosecution and the defense lawyers. They're going to have about a 15-minute here argument that gets kind of heated as they're getting ready for the next witness. Legal-minded friends, Karen Cole says, I don't think Legal Vices is biased, as this is one of the worst DA written house. As one of the worst DA's written house was the worst in my view. Yeah, it was just way out of their league, way out of Darden and Marsha Clark's league to get involved with someone like F. Lee Bailey. Flux says, I can't remember who it was, but last night on Hannah's stream, someone mentioned you changed their minds about OJ's guilt. Yeah, well, that's not what okay, let me finish the super chat here. It made me happy. I love y'all degenerates and your open minds. Now, I'm not trying to change anybody's mind. It's been 27 years. We all have made up our minds a long time ago whether we think he's guilty or not. So why are we doing this? I just want you to show how, whether you think he's guilty, whether you think he's completely innocent, or whether you just think the prosecution didn't do enough to prove his guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, wherever you fall in that spectrum. I'm showing some of the amazing defense work that went on in this trial to show you the arguments from some of the best defense lawyers that literally have ever walked on planet Earth. F. Lee Bailey is one of the top. Barry Scheck is one of the absolute premier, if not the premier, evidence. What would you call them? Evidentiary lawyers. The lawyers that argue about evidence, collecting scientific evidence and stuff. I believe he's still the chair of Project Innocence, which he started. Top-notch guy, mind like a steel trap. So I just want to show you how it's possible when you can level the playing field to get reasonable doubt into the mind of a juror. Not trying to change anyone's mind, just showing you how a good lawyer operates. Smash or pass ratio of the witness? In the 90s, that would have been a smash, man. Totally. Judging by today's standards, maybe not, but hey, in the 90s, that was a def smash. You got to go with the zeitgeist, with the times, you know. And what? Who was it? Someone asked. No, hang tight. Don't go. It's there. You're coming up next. Don't worry, Alfred. We got you. You're next. Where'd it go? Someone said, I lost it because I was protecting the super chatters. Why is my camera so high? Because I went from a 33-inch monitor to a 50-inch monitor, which is just enormous. So that's the new camera location because it doesn't go anywhere else. So that's it. The best I can do is zoom in, but this is where it is now. And now you can see more dog. Except for the one that's under the desk. You can't see Yoda. You got the strawberry cam back there. All right. Now we will get on to Alfred Sparman's super chat. Thank you very much. Lol, this woman had more sense than Fuhrman, and she's not a police detective. Her using the word does not kill her credibility and does not make her a racist. Darden sucks, just like the prosecution. Well, Darden is a prosecutor, so he would suck along with the rest of the prosecution. And it's not that he sucked. It's just that he was out of his league. He's way out of his depth. You're out of your depth, Donnie. Yeah. I wonder what happened to Matt Harris. He had a hearing recently. I believe the next hearing is somewhere around the beginning or middle of January for Matthew Harris. And Lisa M asked, hi, Jeff. Question, was Fuhrman ever charged with perjury? Great stream as usual. Tune in next week for the answer to that question. We'll definitely be talking about that next week. All righty. Well, that's where we are. We are caught up with all the chats and whatnot. Maybe you should move to Denver. You should move to Denver. Denver's a great place. For the reason, I don't know, whatever reason Oregon, you would definitely have more there than you would in Denver, but Denver's better. Okay. Now I said we got this little battle that's ensuing here. Why besmirch Fuhrman? The defense had to call into question his credibility because, as we said at the beginning of this stream and every other stream we've done, you may have heard it. If not, the reason is he found perhaps the two most important pieces of evidence: blood on the Bronco, tiny little blood drops on the Bronco, and the bloody glove behind Fuhrman's house. Now, when he found those, he wasn't supposed to be in those areas looking for those pieces of evidence. He wandered off by himself, didn't tell anybody where he was going or what he was doing in either case. He wandered off by himself, and suddenly, a few minutes later, he says, wait a minute, I found something important. No witnesses to him finding them, no reason for him to be where he was when he found the blood on the Bronco or when he found the glove behind the house. No reason, no witnesses, all alone, without telling anybody where he was going or what he was doing. And then, especially with the glove, in a few seconds, he could have walked to the other detectives in the area, but he didn't do that. What he did is he went in by himself, mysteriously found the glove, left it there,
walked out from behind the house, got one of the detectives, one of them. So that's one in, one out. That's 2 pairs of shoes. That's 2 tracks going in and out. He brings another officer with him. They walk in and they walk out. So that's 2 pairs of feet. So 4 feet going in and 4 feet tracking out. So now you've walked over that ground 10 times. He does this 2 more times. So basically, you've got what? 4, 8, 24, 26 tracks going to this glove and back. He has completely demolished any tracks that there would be for anyone who would have gone back there and dropped the glove. He's completely obliterated a crime scene with the single most important piece of evidence there. Did he do it intentionally? We don't know, but it looks really, really bad. So the defense is totally crushing his character by saying he's a racist. He drops N-bombs everywhere. By saying he is threatened to plant evidence by reading parts of this, this letter and the statements that he's made to the next 2 witnesses, that if he sees a black man and a white woman together, he will do whatever it takes to plant evidence or arrest them. And if there's not a reason to exist, he'll find a reason. He'll make a reason. So you show he's a racist. You show he has a propensity for planting evidence, and then you can say, well, I guess he did that for this particular trial too. And Bailey caught him in like 100 little insignificant lies that add up. So that's why they're crushing Mark Fuhrman. That's why F. Lee Bailey is just shattering him. All right, let's look at this little argument here that's going on with the guess I need to bring this up before I full screen it. That's happening between the prosecution and the defense lawyer. They get a little testy with each other.
Firm. And Ms. Hannock began to date Officer Petrino, who the evidence will show was Furman's partner. Ms. Singer went home. She did not spend overnight in the hospital. And a few weeks later was present in the living room of the 2-bedroom apartment where she was at that time sleeping, because there were 4 girls in the 2-bedroom apartment. And Mr.
Now, again, we're coming into this in the middle. The first part of this argument here is not recorded. It's somewhere out in the ether. But it's not important. We'll all catch up with what's going on here as it goes along. And by the way, American Dreamer said, thank you for answering. You're welcome. And Marv White said, we all know Steve killed Nicole. No, he didn't. Don't even joke about that. Please. All right, back to the argument.
Furman entered with Mr. Petrino, who was courting Ms. Hannock.
Do we have a time frame for this? Refresh my recollection.
Yes, Your Honor. She was in the hospital September 24th, 1987. And within about 3 weeks thereafter, she has no means of ascertaining the exact date, these 2 men came into the apartment, Petrino to visit Ms. Hannock, Furman tagging along. During that conversation, Officer Furman gratuitously offered the fact, upon being asked what he did, that he and Petrino were assigned to gangs, and that as part of his business, he would take N-word people into an alley and he would hit them with a stick or baton. She's not sure which word he used. And then he would kick them until he could see them twitch. And that relieved his tensions. And he smiled as he said it.
This is all outside the presence of the jury. They're arguing about whether to let this witness testify, and what's cumulative. Is it going to be more prejudicial than probative? So that's where they're going with this. The jury's not here for this.
The evidence will be that he came when she was at home. She knows he came a number of times when she wasn't at home, but when she was at home, 3 or 4 more times. And when Officer Furman came in, she would leave the room so as not to be present when language of the kind she'd heard on her very first encounter was uttered. After about the 4th occasion, and probably late in 1987, she was in the bathroom looking out the window of this 2nd floor apartment when she saw a car pull up, and Officer Petrino pull up, get out of the car with Officer Furman.
Talking about the Aaron Dean
They
trial.
started up
I hope
the
that's
walkway,
what it is.
And she said out the window, "Hello, Tom." And she saw Furman with an angry face say something to Vitrano. The part that she could hear was "that fucking bitch." At which point she said, "That man is not coming in this house anymore. Tom, you can come in if you like." Mr. Vitrano then came in and left, she believes, with Miss Hennick. She never saw Mr. Furman in her apartment again. That's what she will testify to.
All right, Mr. Darden.
And the court has already ruled that these comments as they relate to excessive force are highly inflammatory and prejudicial. I am not interested in hiding the ball if the court feels that Detective Furman's use of the N-word is somehow relevant, but in the context provided to us today, finally, by Mr. What's his last name?
What's his name? What is this? What?
By Mr. Bailey, Your Honor.
Darden literally forgot F. Lee Bailey's name right there.
What's his last name?
What's his last name again? Did you hear? He's talking about F. Lee fucking Bailey, who's been brutalizing him and his witnesses for the entire trial. What's that super ultra mega world famous defense lawyer's name standing right there next to me again?
By Mr. What's his last name? Yes, by Mr. Bailey, Your Honor. Well, when they throw those epithets around, Judge, I just go blank. But given the context in which the word was used in this case, I think it's highly inflammatory and prejudicial.
Yeah, that's why he couldn't remember F. Lee Bailey's name, was because F. Lee Bailey dropped an N-bomb, and he got so confused. But so he's arguing that her testifying to all of that, if this next witness comes on and says those things, the probative value, the value it has for proving the truth of a statement is going to be far outweighed by the prejudice that the jury will hear when they hear him start dropping N-bombs and bitch bombs and fuck bombs. Yeah. That's his argument.
Judicial. If they want to call, when they throw those epithets around, Judge, I just go blank. But given the context in which the word was used in this case, I think it's highly inflammatory and prejudicial. If they want to call Ms. Singer in to say that he uttered the epithet in a derogatory manner, in a disparaging manner, 1987, or 3 weeks after September 17, 1987, I will not object at this point. However,
Dana Plato.
these are horrible, horrible things that Ms. Singer will testify were said by Detective Furman. I think it takes us to another level, a higher level of emotionalism. I think the court should exercise its discretion under 352 and limit.
Mr. Bailey.
See, he's what he's confusedly trying to say in his whiny, monotone, disinterested voice is, Your Honor, we know she's going to testify that he dropped a ton of N-bombs, but can you please just limit the number of times she can mention that our witness dropped N-bombs all over the place? They'll get the point after a few. So we don't want to hear, we don't want you to let the jury hear all 41 times or 50 times or however many times he used it. Just limit it to a few times, please. That's his argument.
In addition, I would say this, if Ms. McKinney is also going to testify to 42 or 41 uses of the word, I mean, I think we are at the point where this is cumulative.
Mr. Bailey.
If it please the court.
Here we get this is where we start to get testy and a little bit of argument and goings on. Let's try that again, shall we? Okay. This is where they start to get a bit testy with each other and a little arguing goes on.
Cumulative.
Mr. Bailey.
If it please the court. When the prosecution thought it could get away with trashing Miss Bell and calling her a liar as they did in this court, they thought it a smart tactic to introduce into evidence 102, in which genocide is mentioned, a somewhat more inflammatory event than merely beating someone up until he twitched, but presumably leaving him alive. Suddenly, they have a queasy stomach because the tables have turned and they're in no position to start calling these people liars because the consequences are fairly obvious. The tapes are corroborative and could then be admitted. I do not believe the fact that their strategy has backfired, the fact that an officer they have long known, according to Commander Ball of the police department since 1978, was a big problem because of his attitudes, was put on this witness stand and vouched for, is any basis for them to complaining in here with an estoppel. Mr. Furman chose those words. He chose on this occasion, as he did before, to visit them on a total stranger in a first encounter. It says a great deal about who he is and how much he is to be trusted, and to withhold this information from the jury because they can't live with it, I think is pushing the envelope a long way out. They thought the jury could hear about burn or bomb them all. Now they think kicking is too bad because they realize.
That is devastating. That is a devastating line of argument he's making. And Ralph L707 says, I understand your admiration for F. Lee Bailey, but I don't understand your disdain for everyone else not on the defense. I don't have any disdain for Christopher Darden and Marcia Clark. They're just way out of their depth here. They lack the passion. Marcia's starting to get it. Marcia's starting to get some of the passion now, a year after the trial started. Well, not a year. Was it like, 8 months? 8 months after the trial started. Now Marcia's starting to get a little fiery. She's starting to argue back a bit. Darden is still like, like he's reading the fucking weather. He's trying to argue that his star witness is going to be decimated if this witness is allowed to repeatedly drop the N-bomb. Bailey has the argument. He has the passion. He has the anger burning inside of him that Darden should have. Darden doesn't have it. He's just out of his league. You saw Bailey had him so flustered he couldn't even remember he couldn't remember Bailey's last name. I don't have disdain for either of them. Marcia's out of her depth and Darden is way out of his depth. That's just all I'm saying. And now you think they introduced him saying the verbiage that Mark Fuhrman allegedly said that all N-words should be gathered up and burned. And as he's saying, well, they can put into evidence that he said he wants to burn all of the black people, but he thinks it's too prejudicial if we say he took him down an alley and hit him with a stick. So, yeah. Oh, if that's true, then does that make me an N lover because I really love Johnny Cochran?
Bomb them all. Now they think kicking is too bad because they realize that Fuhrman is lying in his teeth and these people are telling the truth and they're stuck with it. That wasn't a legal argument he gave. That's tucking your tail between your legs and trying to get out of here. And your court, you are not to permit it.
You know, I'm gonna save the heated remarks that I have for Mr. Bailey for another day and another time when it's just Mr. Bailey and I, when we can talk this over. You know, we have a right under the law to ask the court to exercise its discretion under 352. And by the way, Mr. Bailey, we didn't call Kathleen Bell a liar. And the letter was introduced because His Honor.
Why don't you address your remarks to me, please?
The letter was introduced because His Honor ruled the letter relevant. Okay, we take the evidence as it comes. We deal with it. Okay, we're not running with our tails tucked between our legs, Mr. Bailey. And I would ask the court, well, I would say to the court so that Mr. Bailey can hear and understand. But I live with this every day, Mr. Bailey. I understand what the word means. I can't run away from it. And I certainly can't run away from it in this courtroom when it is thrown about in the careless manner that it is by Mr. Bailey. At any event, 352 is in the evidence code for a reason. And it has been there many years. This is not the trial of People versus Fuhrman. Not yet. And when it is the time for Mr. Fuhrman's prosecution, if there is one, then they can deal with that issue. But this is the case of People versus Simpson.
See, that is such a bad look. It looks like he's gonna cry. He's like, I'm being traumatized because he's throwing around the words of my client, not my client, of my witness. He's throwing around Mark Fuhrman's words just casually, and it's hurting my feelings. It's not a good look, Darden. And even Ito saying, don't talk to Bailey, don't criticize, talk to me. I'm the judge. Make your arguments to me. Bailey is just a master at what he does.
issue. But this is the case of People versus Simpson. And ask the court to limit Ms. Singer's testimony.
Your Honor, it's the case of a leading witness for the prosecution, a badge-carrying detective who provided probable cause for a search and found evidence which purports to point to this defendant very severely, lying to the court and lying to the jury. And I think within limits, and certainly there is a point at which you might find it cumulative, unless they're willing to step up to the bar and say, ladies and gentlemen, we made a mistake, this guy's a perjurer, and we're stuck with it, and we admit it. Until that happens, I think we're entitled to provide from at least 2 or 3 different sources, from people who don't know each other, from people who made their statements before these tapes ever emerged and they knew they'd be corroborated, from people who have been publicly called liars by this prosecution team in this court in argument. I think the jury's entitled to have a sampling of the consistency of this man's conduct.
Again, beautiful arguments. That is just a masterful, beautiful argument. Unless they bring him in, unless they tell the jury, we screwed up, this guy's a racist, this guy's a perjurer. If they say that, cool. But until they say it, we have to bring, would not get to, want to, we have to bring witnesses on to prove that. If they want to say it and get it out of the way, cool. If not, we got to prove it.
You know what they say, Judge? Yet he, without sin, cast the first stone. I don't think anybody here is going to be.
What kind of a fucking legal argument is that? Darden is just swimming here. I feel just floundering, I guess is the word, not really swimming. He's just floundering. That's his response to that? Let he who is without sin cast the first stone?
What they say, Judge? Yet he, without sin, cast the first stone. I don't think anybody here is going to be throwing the first stone. It's highly inflammatory and prejudicial, Judge.
All right. Thank you, counsel. I will allow the testimony of Ms. Singer as it relates to 1987, the acquaintanceship with Detective or Officer Vetrano. You can lay the foundation that that officer was Mr. Fuhrman's partner at the time. The fact that he was working gangs with Mr. Vetrano and that he used the N-word in a vile and disparaging manner as to African Americans. I am going to limit and not receive the testimony regarding beating of suspects. There is no allegation that that occurred in this case. It's not relevant to this case. I find it highly inflammatory, and I'll exercise my discretion to keep that out.
May we introduce the fact that his derogatory reference to people of the ilk of the N-word relieved his tensions?
Yes.
All right. May I have a...
I like that. See, this is what I've said before about Bailey, is his verbiage is so dynamic. It's powerful and it's dynamic. He should, I mean, listen to this again. Listen to how he phrased this.
ilk of the N-word.
Here we go.
May we introduce the fact that his derogatory reference to people of the ilk of the N-word relieved his tensions?
So basically that was, Mark Fuhrman was saying he would call them N-words and beat them to relieve his tension. Saying, so it was a stress release to call them N-words. He's like, can we, this verbiage was used by people of the ilk of, to relieve, the ilk is such a great word.
Ilk is a beautiful word. We need to use ilk more in our conversation.
Introduce the fact that his derogatory reference to people of the ilk of the N-word relieved his tensions?
Yes.
All right. May I have a moment to acquaint the witness with the limitations of Your Honor's ruling? And
Absolutely.
with respect to the encounter where he's entering the house and calls her an epithet, may she testify to that?
I think it's her and his reaction to each other based upon these discussions. So I would say yes.
You say?
I would say yes.
Thank you. May I have just a moment?
It places their relationship in context.
Yes.
All right. All right. We'll take 15.
We do. My torts professor would always use cut of your jib. My torts professor used that a lot. So I'm going to give you 1/3 of the recovery because I like the cut of your jib.
All right, Deputy McNair, let's have the jurors, please. Yes, sir.
There's one thing, and the fault is mine, that I omitted from the offer of proof, at least today. I think I may have mentioned it last week. And that is later on the day of the first conversation, where the remarks about beating and so forth that you have excluded were used. Detective Furman or Officer Furman at that time made the observation that the only good in person is a dead in person. And I would propose to have her testify to that. I don't think that comes anywhere close to bomb and burn them all, as the prosecution put before the jury. And I think it's an indication of his overall attitude toward the race.
Mr. Darden? Ms. Clark?
No, I recall very distinctly what counsel's remarks were concerning the offer of proof when he last made it, as well as today. And he's never mentioned that before. And it's very apparent that what has happened is, since the court has excluded the reference to the beatings, they have to come up with yet another phrase that will be inflammatory along these lines. The court has ruled that the reference to the use of the word is all that can be used. That is a great deal. That's a great deal that counsel has been given. And to now heap more on because the court has ruled that other references could not come in is unfair and I think highly suspect. And I would urge the court not to allow this belated observations of Ms. Singer.
Please, the court. Ms. Clark's perennially professionally insulting conduct adds nothing to this trial. This woman told me.
Counsel.
The perennial. She said this woman is just constantly harping on me, but the perennial. This woman, I love Bailey.
Ms. Singer.
Please, the court. Ms. Clark's perennially professionally insulting conduct adds nothing to this trial. This woman told me.
Counsel. Please. If you're going to complain about somebody else's conduct, I suggest you not engage in that yourself. I'll hear your argument.
My argument is that we've just been charged with concocting a fabrication in response to the court's limiting ruling. I personally interviewed this witness in Nashville on May 2nd, 1995, and was told about the remark I have just recited at that time. This witness was interviewed in Mr. Cochran's office by a number of lawyers, and we were told about the remark. I simply omitted it because I was focusing on the beating aspect of it, and the fault is mine. But to suggest that lawyers are making up evidence to frustrate your ruling requires something more than a nasty attitude. I think you ought to require an offer of proof before you tolerate conduct of that sort in this trial any further.
Wait. What is your offer of proof, Ms. Clark?
I'd like to show counsel the fact, it's very easy. There's no discovery. We have no statement. We have nothing ever given to us by counsel that would indicate what Ms. Singer said. There has been no offer of proof to date given to this court in which that phrase was represented as part of the offer. Today, for the very first time after the court's ruling, counsel comes up with it and now asserts to the court that that was something that had been said before. Now, if counsel had made an effort to comply with discovery, had made a good faith effort to give us a prior statement issued by Ms. Singer, and I do not fault Ms. Singer for this, I do fault counsel, however, then he would stand in a better posture before this court. But to come before this court now and represent, having given us no discovery, no statement from Ms. Singer at all, that she said this all along, and yet he forgot to say it until this very moment, is something that should be considered by the court, if nothing else. Counsel obviously didn't think it all that important. if he did not include it in any prior offer, which he did not, if he did not seek to tell us about it at any prior occasion, which he did not, if he included it in no discovery of any notes made by any investigator, which he did not, and if that is contained in notes somewhere, then we were entitled to discovery and we didn't get it. And under the discovery laws and rules under 1054 et sec, I would urge the court to suppress it on those grounds as well.
Mr. Bailey?
That is, let me also indicate to the court that is another highly inflammatory statement that adds nothing to the evidence of racial bias other than to seek to inflame the passions of the jury again improperly.
I am concerned about any investigators' reports, any notations as to interviews of Ms. Singer that haven't been turned over.
Your Honor, the investigators' notes have been turned over. No report has been written. No one was present with me when
Well,
I
asked
talked with the
counsel.
witness.
Well, I asked for investigators' notes.
Pardon me?
They've been turned over. The
They
investigators.
have been turned over. Yes,
All
Your
right.
Honor. Furthermore, if I may.
Counsel, no. Thank you.
All right.
I've heard all I need to hear.
All right.
Statement does not appear in any notes, Your Honor.
All right, the objection's overruled. All right, let's have the jury, please.
All right. That was our little courtroom drama before we started there. We've got a Flux reading here. Hang on. Super chat from Flux about 20 minutes ago. Sorry to get to that so late, Flux. Jeff, you know how this works. This is the internet. You know now. Anything that happens to anyone at any time, it was Steve. No, it wasn't Steve. Even wasn't Steve. Thank you, Flux. Again, we already read that one. Sorry. Alrighty then. We'll watch about 15 more minutes of this, and then we'll call it a night. And next week, we will get to the last half of this witness, the third witness, and then Mark Fuhrman will take the stand for the last time. That's what's going to be happening next week. Let's burn through this next 15 minutes here. Hurry up.
Bailey may call the next witness.
Ms. Natalie Singer, please.
Testimony may give you cause not moving before this court should be the truth to help you, nothing but the truth to help you God. Please have a seat at the witness stand and state your first and last names for the record.
Natalie, Natalie, Singer, Singer.
All right, Ms. Singer, why don't you just sit back, pull the microphone close to you, please. Mr. Bailey.
And if you will, Ms. Singer, keep your voice up so that we can all hear. Where do you presently reside without giving us a street address? Yes. May we have a glass of water?
It's coming.
Here it comes.
David Watkins, spoilers.
Wait, proceed.
Yes, sir. I think she'd like to sit.
I'm nervous.
Aw, she's nervous.
Mr. Bailey.
Sorry.
In what area do you presently
Her
reside?
name is Singer.
Nashville, Tennessee.
All right. On September 24th, 1987, where did you reside?
In Beverly Hills adjacent area in Los Angeles.
In an apartment?
Yes.
All right. Did you have roommates?
Yes, I had 3.
Now, how long had you been in Los Angeles as of September 24th, 1987?
9 days.
And how long had you known the roommates with whom you were residing on that date?
Well, 2 of them I'd known for years, 6 or 7 years. There was, because it was a 2-bedroom apartment, there was a spare bedroom, and they rented that out to another girl whom I didn't know until I arrived and met her.
What was her name?
Carol Hannock.
Can you spell that?
Karel Hannak.
What kind of business were you in at the time you moved to Los Angeles?
Well, I had been previously working in and around the film industry. I'd been personal assistant to Christopher Reeve for a few years.
Is that the same Christopher Reeve that was just injured in a
Yes.
horse riding accident?
Yes.
All right.
There you
Continue.
go.
And I'd done script
Superman.
analysis, and I was doing research on a book. It's project to project work. I don't have.
Had you worked for any producers of television shows?
Well, this was in New York. When I came out here, I was supposed to work at TriStar Pictures, hopefully as script analysis. And then the writer's strike happened like 5 seconds after I stepped off the plane. So that job went out the window. And so eventually it was a bit of time because I found a good agency and I worked in different places in the film industry and settled on Aaron Spelling, the Aaron Spelling Company, with Doug Kramer, who's a producer there, for about 2.5 years, even though that was a temp job, but I stayed on for that long.
Are you still in the same line of work, entertainment, so to speak?
Well, I'm currently in pre-production as the creative director and producer of a series of women's titles for a CD-ROM, series of CD-ROM titles. My partner's presently finishing another title, so I'm just doing the storyboarding.
Let me draw your attention to September 24th, 1987, 9 days after you had moved to Los Angeles, and ask you if something extraordinary
Nice
happened
Star
to you
Trek 9
personally that
blast.
day that you remember.
Good Deep Space Nine there. Yeah. All right.
The kidney stone extraordinary? Yeah. Well, I woke up the night before. I was having pains in my lower back. And that morning, which is very unusual, usually there's at least 1 or 2 roommates home. No one was.
We get to hear about her kidney stone, and then we'll wrap it up after we hear about her kidney stone.
Home. And I don't know if you've ever had a kidney stone, but it's like having giving birth. And so I was rushed to the hospital. And they kept me in the emergency room in the hospital on intravenous Demerol for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And they were hoping it would pass. And that's what happened. I was in the hospital for hours.
Did the kidney stone pass sometime during the day of your admission?
During the evening, it finally did.
Was it necessary that you be kept overnight?
No. No.
Was one of your roommates present in the hospital while you were admitted there for treatment?
Actually, more than one.
Okay.
Carol, who had only known several days, but it was very sweet of her. She came to the hospital and sat in the emergency room with another one of my roommates that found out I was over there. She stayed the whole time. And then the third roommate, well, she popped in just to see if I was okay and then left. So Carol and the other roommate stayed almost the entire time when Carol got off work.
During the day, was Carol at any time in the emergency room, to your knowledge? Carol Hanna.
Well, I was being kept in the emergency room.
Oh,
and
fast,
the waiting
Dad,
room
no.
where people sat to wait on
No.
news about people in the emergency room
Go
was very
away.
close, because as high as I was from the Demerol, I could hear their bracelets. I could hear their bracelets the whole time clanking together. So yes, Carol was there.
Great.
Did you
she's got a
see
kidney
any
stone.
police
She's on
officers that
drugs.
day?
I didn't. I wasn't seeing anything except.
Without going into anything that she said, did you learn anything from Ms. Hannock later with reference to police officers?
Well, I actually learned when I started to come out from under the Demerol, my other roommate came.
She's one of those nasal talkers. This is like the early days of the vocal fry. And she's talking straight out of her nose. And I'm ready for my headshot.
Came in and, well.
Don't tell us what anybody said.
Yeah, well, no, it's just very, I don't have to go into that. But anyway, she mentioned, I can't say what she said.
No,
Okay, well, I became aware that Carol had met 2 police officers that had come in for other business in the hospital at that point.
Did you go home that night?
Yes, I did. Approximately between 8 and 8:30.
Did you subsequently meet 2 policemen in your home that were referred to as people that were in the hospital the day you were there?
That's right, yes.
Can you tell us about how long it was after your encounter in the hospital before these policemen came to your home?
This is an approximate, but I would say about 3 to 4 weeks.
And can you tell
I've
me?
been hearing about them, but I hadn't yet met them.
All right. Now, did you know the names of these people by that time?
I knew especially Tom, who is Mark. It was Mark Fuhrman and Tom, whose name I still keep forgetting. So, but it's Tom Catrano or Catrello or
Vitrano
that's right.
or
Vitrano.
Vitriano or something of that?
Yeah.
nature? Okay.
And because Carol and he were getting into this, oh, he's cute, and we're getting to know one another, and so I was hearing a lot and about that, and then I met them when they came up.
Now, without getting too personal, can you tell us basically within this 2-bedroom apartment who slept where? How are the rooms allocated?
Well, the 2 roommates whose names I haven't mentioned that I knew from New York shared a room, and Carol and I shared a room.
Okay, but prior to the time you moved into Carol's room, did you
Oh,
sleep
well, I
somewhere
was
else?
actually in the living room to start with, but because everybody was, in the morning, they'd have to pass me to come out of the bedrooms to go into the kitchen, and it became a little annoying. So everyone kind of got together and said, do you think we could stick her in the other bedroom? And so I shared the other bedroom with Carol.
Did that sharing begin before or after the first visit by the police officers?
Well, when I got out of the hospital, I was still in the living room because I was they gave me so much Demerol, I was withdrawing I'm not used to drugs. And so I know I was still in there. And I think a couple of days, it was definitely before I met them.
That you moved out of the living room?
Absolutely.
Okay. Tell me the circumstances as best you can remember them of your first physical or personal encounter.
Ew, don't tell us the
Mark
first physical encounter.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the very first 2 words of your question.
Tell me the circumstances within your
Yeah,
apartment
Terry Hatcher was way better.
surrounding
looking.
your first
but
encounter with Mark.
She looks
Fuhrman
more
and
like
his partner,
Marina
Tom.
Sirtis,
Okay,
or
okay.
Deanna Troy than
Well,
Kira.
You walk in the front door and there's 2 couches in the living room. There's a living room area. There's one couch facing that wall and there's one couch facing that wall. Carol was excited. This was going to be the first time, they're coming over and I want you to meet them and, all that stuff. And they
Yeah,
stopped by
that's what I was going to say. What hairstyle is that?
while they
Rat's
were
nest?
on
No, it's-
duty because there's no
it's
other reason
Sopranos,
for
soprano hair. It's
a man
Carmela
to pick up
Sir-
a date
this is-
with
this is
another
one of the
guy.
Sopranos,
They would just drop by.
But did they say they were on duty or is that a conclusion?
No, they were on duty. Well, I mean, being that they had all that paraphernalia dangling off of them,
Sustained.
Okay.
Shut up.
Next question.
Without reference to whether they were on duty or off duty. What time of day, if you can remember, did they arrive?
The first time it was dark. It was definitely dark.
In the evening?
Yes. And I want to say, I
No,
do want,
No,
I don't want to say
no, you
anything.
don't want
Okay.
to say anything. Except in response to a question.
Okay.
Mr. Bailey.
Just try to answer the questions.
So I want to say no. I don't want to say anything. No. Yeah, the hairstyle. This is like Sopranos hair because this is right around the time of the Sopranos. I think the Sopranos started like 4 or 5 years after this. So this is essentially Sopranos hair.
As tightly as you can. At some point during that evening, were you sitting in proximity to Carol Hannock, Tom Vitriano or Vitrano, and Mark Fuhrman?
Yes, yes, yes.
How close was the group?
Okay. Tom and Carol were sitting on this couch. Mark Fuhrman sat here. I sat here. Okay, that's it. That's all I want to say.
At some point, was inquiry made by someone as to what these 2 officers did?
Yes.
Their work, and what was the response as to the type of work that they did?
Fuhrman said we work with gangs,
All right.
gang
Now,
unit.
Being very careful with your answer. Did he, in describing the gangs that he worked with, describe any particular race?
Yes.
Did he use an epithet well known to the world that denotes black people and begins with N?
Yes.
What was your reaction to his use of that word on your first encounter? How did you feel?
Well, in the context that it was in, that word was used in, I was shocked, stunned. I never met anyone that talks that way.
Without going into the exact language, is it fair to say that the description of the way N people were treated was abusive?
Overruled.
Is it fair to say that the description of the way the N people were treated?
You got to admit, N word sounds better than N people.
According to Fuhrman, was abusive.
Absolutely.
Do you recall his saying anything at the end of that description about his reaction to that kind of treatment?
Yes.
What did he say?
He said after he did what he said he did, he said, "Oh, well, it really relieves your tension." And then this nauseating, it hits you here kind of laugh looking at Tom. Do I stop now?
You can stop there. Later in the conversation, did he make another reference to N people?
Yes, he did.
Can you tell us what he said? You may use the N word if you would.
You can. I just love that.
Did.
Can you tell us what he said? You may use the N word if you would.
He's like giving her. He's giving her the pass. White guy F. Lee Bailey's giving her the N-word pass. I don't know. I just think that's hilarious. You can use the word if you want. I'll give you the N-word pass. It's the first white as shit N-word pass. Back then it was the N people pass. But yeah. Oh God, you gotta love Bailey.
You remember the question?
Let me rephrase it if I may, Your Honor. Did he make a reference to the African American race using the word we have discussed that begins with N?
And you're not referring to the first reference,
No,
you're referring
no.
to that second kind
Later
of
in the
saying.
conversation.
Yes,
What did he say?
it's okay to say that.
Yes.
He said, "The only good nigger is a dead nigger."
Now, did he visit thereafter when you were in the apartment?
All right, well that's our cliffhanger ending for today. We'll get to the last 30 minutes of her testimony and the first and the next witness, the what's her face, the script writer. She brings the tapes of him saying. So yeah, Mark. No, it's not great success. That will get me banned. Please don't do that. Yeah. Do me a favor and please delete that there, great success. YouTube does not like that. That's like literally my only rule. Don't get me deplatformed, please. That's like literally it. Thank you. Yeah, yeah. Please don't do that. I would appreciate if you would just let that go. All righty. There we go. That's the end of OJ today. Next week, like I said, it'll be the end of her testimony, and the screenplay writer who brings the tapes. There was originally 41 N-bombs he dropped on those tapes, but he was limited to I think 6 or 7. And then after that, Mark Fuhrman takes the stand. Then we'll talk about the aftermath of Mark Fuhrman's testimony, and we'll watch like a little bit of an interview with F. Lee Bailey from his younger days. Well, all righty. Let me set this up to when we dump out of this stream, it will, if you're so inclined, stick around. Hopefully, it will send us over to Andrew Branca's verdict watch for the Aaron Dean trial, the police officer who shot the woman through her window without notifying or advising that he was police. The verdict is expected to be coming down today, and we'll see how it goes. We'll just dump over there. If you want to stick around, please do. But whatever you do, while I'm doing this, make sure you go over there and you hit that like button. Like it if you my like button, not his. I don't care what you do with his. Hit my like button because we need the likes.
All righty. Boom. We are saved. We're all saved. Say hallelujah. We are saved. And we are going to be dumping into the Aaron Dean verdict watch. Nope. The jury's still out. So there we go. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already done so. I will be over there. I'll be on the stream. I'll get a drink, stuff a little bit of food in my face, and then we'll be there. Let him know that the Legal Vices raid is happening, and I will be there shortly. Oh, wait a minute. We've got one more super chat coming in under the wire. Legendary Racing says, daily reminder, it was Steve. Daily reminders that it was Steve are now going to be more expensive. Just kidding. All righty. You guys are funny. Warren Jeffs was not a Mormon. He was an offshoot. He was, they broke off the, from the Mormon church and started their own little cult because they wouldn't let him do what he wanted. Don't forget to preload tomorrow night's stream. Yeah, I got to figure out what tomorrow night's stream is first and make a thumbnail. Cause I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to talk about yet. I know the general genre that I want to deal with, but Hannah won't be joining me. I don't know if anybody else is available because I screwed up on the time. Hannah can't make it. So I'll see if anybody else wants to hang with me for the stream that will start at 8 a.m. Eastern time. Was that 2 p.m. London time? No, 1 p.m. UK time. But for the stream that will be happening tomorrow night US time, 9 p.m. Eastern, which is what? 2 a.m. UK time. It'll be me, Drex, Flux, Hannah, and producer Tim, who is Drex's producer, talking about some stuff. You won't want to miss it. It'll be a hoot. All righty, guys. Take care. We'll see you all over at Branca's stream. Until then, for the next 10 minutes at least, enjoy. Oh, wait a minute. Got to make sure we got everything. Yep. Oh, we have one last question. Sorry. False alarm. This is one question I wanted to answer. How much did I wonder how much OJ paid for his legal team. The final numbers were Los Angeles spent about $9 million prosecuting him. The defense is estimated to be between $4 and $6 million. But rumor has it he paid about 1% of that. So there you go. He stiffed his legal team for their legal fees. There you go. He had to go declare bankruptcy because of the civil trial. He had to spend his time looking for the real killers. He just couldn't be bothered to pay his lawyers. So, yep, $9 million for the prosecution, $4 to $6 million for the defense, but he apparently stiffed him for the bills. There you go. Take care. Enjoy your legal vices. I'm out. Bye now.